Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be the battle report for our third round at the ETC with Team Netherlands playing against Team England. So far, well, I've mostly just had enjoyable games. I did 9 points against Poland, I did 20 points against Mexico, and now I am facing off against Infernal Dwarves. So Infernal Dwarves in general is generally quite a good counter against Red Elves. This list has a Wizard Master on Alchemy, which I'm not too keen on. Wizard added on Pyromancy to support it, which makes it even worse, and then a ton of breath weapons. Then still an Infernal Bastion with 20 shots every turn, a rocket battery, artillery, rocket battery on the Kadim, and then a Naphtha thrower. Naphtha throwers is also definitely something that my army doesn't really like. So I was quite nervous going into this match, but we will see how the match will progress. My list as a reference, well, you've seen it before probably by now. You can also look at the other battle reports that I did so far, and I also have a list focus video on this list explaining all the different choices. And then we'll go into the game. So I believe we were playing Frontline Clash, and then we are playing Secure Target. My opponent was able to choose sides, and he went for the top side, and then he put down the circle on the left for the secure target, and I put the circle on the right. So I was told before by Infernal Dwarf players that it's best against Infernal Dwarfs to just spread them out as much as you can, play as wide as possible. So I thought that I would give that a go this game. And yeah, this is my deployment. So on the bottom from the left to right, I have my Thunder Pack, I have my Dread Prince on Raptor, my selection of auxiliaries with the Banner of Discipline. Then I have a Raptor Chariot, I have the Obsidian Guard, the Dark Riders, Shadow Riders that vanguarded up, 2 Hunting Chariots, Raptor Chariot, Beast Breakers with the Crucible of Slaughter and the Temple Exarch and the Witchcraft Mage. And then all the way on the right, just off table, off the picture, is the other selection auxiliary unit. For my opponent on the left side, he has the Naphtha Thrower Kadim, then he has the Citadel Guard, he has Slaves, he has a model, a single model, a Witchcraft Mage, I believe, Vassal Conjurer, if I'm right. Then he has the Bastion, then he has the Rocket Battery, Vassal Slaves, the Disciples of Lugar, and he has the other Kadim Titan with the Rocket Battery. So, my thought on this deployment was that I was in quite an okay spot, so my plan generally for the game against this Infernal Dwarf army, I had quite a well worked out plan. So on the left I have my Thunderpack that can counter the Flamethrower if I do manage to pair it up with my Dread Prince, who can survive the onslaught basically, partly due to his 3-up Aegis against flaming attacks. And the selection auxiliaries, we're going to be able to score the objective hopefully. In the middle I want to zone my opponent with a unit that can zone, so the best option there would be the Obsidian Guard with Swift Stride. And with Truth of Time I can zone quite nicely there. Then on the right side basically I want to score the objective, and the left side I want to draw it at least, so I can score the objective generally. And then for the first turn deployment I will be out of range of all of his shooting. Because my opponent had the first turn, so the only target he really has is the Shadow Riders with his Rocket Battery. And if he wants to shoot at that, he can do so. I don't really mind too much. Then we go to his first turn. So basically he moves up, but this is also my first turn afterwards, immediately. So he does move up a little bit in the middle, and he tries to force an engagement on the right, redeploying his Disciples of Lugar, advancing towards me. On the left side, he was marching with his slaves, causing them to lose wounds. This is a rather new rule in the Infernal Dwarf book, I feel, that not that many people know, but once they do a march, they lose d6 models, which goes pretty hard sometimes. And then otherwise, on the left, he is just, rearranging his lines mostly. Just getting my pointer. So in response to my first turn, I have my Dread Prince that advances halfway up the field. He basically is in a good spot to progress even further, because he's just out of range of the Citadel Guard over here, meaning that they have to move and then a couple can shoot. But I will likely survive that, then I can get a charge onto his Kadim. The Thunder Pack went back just to always be outside of range of the Kadim. And then here in the middle, or well on the left side basically, I have my auxiliaries that try to make short work of my opponent's slaves. Here in the middle I did keep my footing quite well with the chariot that could progress a bit up, ignoring the rocket battery for now because it had some other priorities. Mostly here on the right side where my opponent was trying quite vividly, quite actively to remove my hunting chariots. My hunting chariots managed to do a couple of wounds on the big Kadim over there. Kadim tried to shoot back, and I believe he misfired in the first round, but could still shoot. And then otherwise, I'm just progressing on the right side. I'm quite restrained in my progression because I know that if I fully commit, then I'm going to get a lot of shooting over my head, and I'm going to be range of all of his magic, and I don't really want that. Also, the Infernal Bastion, I don't really want to give it any good targets as long as I didn't debuff it. Because these 20 shots, they will do some damage over time. Now we go a bit further in the game, so this is after my turn 2 movement, sorry. So my Raptor Prince did manage to charge in onto the Kadim with the flamethrower on the left, enabling my Thunderpack to progress up to the field, ready for a charge onto the Citadel Guard next turn. And then here on the lower side I have my auxiliaries ready to contest or take the objective later in the game. I still try to put some pressure with the chariots that I have, maybe go for a lucky charge somewhere. And I'm trying to force a bit of an engagement between the warriors and the Obsidian Guard, because I have seen before that if my Obsidian Guard go into this combat, and it's only the blunderbusses that can really strike, then they do lose out. However, with the 2 breath weapons that my opponent has in this unit, it becomes quite dicey, meaning basically that he has to annihilate a little bit the unit before he can manage it. But then once he takes off like, I don't know, 7 models, then it's going to be quite difficult for me to do anything meaningful to these Infernal Warriors. On the right side, my opponent still has his Lugars. Yeah, they're not that eventful this battle so far. And we have a bit of a stalemate between my hunting chariots and his Kadim, me not dealing any damage. He's slowly chipping away on my hunting chariots, removing them one by one. Then, unfortunately, my Dread Prince failed all of his 3 Apeguses against the flaming attacks. And also my opponent did manage to whittle down my Thunderpack quite severely before they could charge in. So between the standard shoot and the actual shooting phase of my opponent, I believe my opponent did like 6 wounds to the Thunderpack. Then on the standard shoot he did another 3 wounds, or 2 wounds, and then in combat he did a wound or something. In the end I have 1 Thunderpack model surviving, and I didn't even do too much damage there. So I was quite sad about what happened on the left flank, and it was definitely not within my expectations. Here in the middle, my opponent managed to put one of his mages, the Pyromancy Adept, I believe, in front of my Obsidian Guards, leaving me nearly no other choice than to charge him and then to reform later, to be ready for his big block, or he would shoot me and I would be in a bad position. I'd be in a bad position anyway. What actually happened is that I didn't manage to kill this wizard with my 9 attacks that I had against him, hitting on 2+ and wounding on 4+, I think, maybe even 3+. Anyway, I didn't kill him, and he also managed to stick. So yeah, that was something, I would say. Putting me in quite a bad spot with the fact that my opponent can just charge in his Bastion unit. I will not get my +1 to wound anymore because it's the 2nd round of combat, 3rd round of combat, 2nd round of combat, and my opponent will likely even just break me on combat res alone. I do have a Raptor Chariot ready to counter charge, but that's not going to be enough against the Lugars. On this right side, my opponent's rocket battery still survives. He did misfire at some point again, and he could not shoot for the rest of the game, so basically he didn't really do that much. Also, the other rocket battery, I believe it did a couple of wounds sometimes to chariots, but it was not that impactful. Then again, I feel like the naphtha thrower piece was the most influential piece in this matchup, and I could avoid it quite nicely with the placement of my opponent's naphtha thrower. Yeah, so right now, what I did on the right side is what's maybe still worth noting, is that I just tried to force an engagement for my opponent, giving him a choice of me either charging his Kadeems or his well, Kadeem, Lugar's or the Kadeem. Um, and then, well, he could also charge me if he wanted to. He is going to annihilate quite a lot of my unit. I'm going to annihilate quite a lot of his unit back. I don't think he will break my steadfast, because I have quite a lot of bodies in there, and I will also deal quite some damage to him. So I was quite confident that I would stick around, that I could get maybe a countercharge with my Raptor Chariot. And then, yeah, basically it's a question for my opponent of whether he wants to risk it. So this is also a point where the Beastbreakers do shine, because the Kadeem would not get any Thunderstomp at these guys. It would only support its 4 or 5. It's the artillery variant, so I think it's only 4 attacks against parry with no Thunderstomp. Doesn't really bring that much to charge in the model as well, in addition to the Lugars. So then in my opponent's turn, he decides not to charge in with the Lugars and instead to walk around my unit, which he could actually manage, which I was quite sad about. Mostly because I forgot they are either light troops or they just have they do have an impressive move of 12 inches. So maybe with a bit better placement, this could have worked out a bit better for me. On the other hand, I was also quite happy that he didn't do it, because it was a tricky situation for me. But then again, next round I could also buff up my unit, go to strength 5 with my Crucible and the Temple Exarch. Then I think in the grind I might even just deplete his units and survive. Maybe he would get the unit of Beast Breakers, sure. But then the Crucible and the Temple Exarch would probably survive. And then on the left side we have the Thunderpack still grinding away. We have the auxiliaries whittling away the Kadeem by this point. And here in the middle what happened is quite magical. So he did charge my Obsidian Guard, he did break them. My Obsidian Guard continued to just run away and not get caught by his unit. Then I managed to rally and I managed to turn around. So I did survive that. I think my opponent should have pursued me just for the points that were in that unit. Because also my general, my mage here, was in the unit. So that would have easily been quite some points there for my opponent. I do manage to chaff up my opponent's Lugar and the Bastion with my Raptor Chariot. And well, this is basically the current state of the board. Then we go into the final turns. So I still have my 2 scoring units on the right side. I still have the possibility to get a scoring unit into the left side if I do manage to whittle down his Kadeem. And then here in the middle, his Bastion tries to just shoot down my Obsidian Guard. Is not that successful at it. Mostly because I keep casting Altered Sight or Twisted Effigy on the unit, and I give my opponent a chance to decide whether he wants the Altered Sight or whether he wants to still stop the Twisted Effigy. He does charge my Raptor Chariot, he does break it, but then in the final moment of the game, I will manage to beat down his Citadel Guard. I will manage to pursue them and destroy them. I'm gonna be able to catch his model that never moved away from this position with my Dark Riders and the Rocket Battery with the remaining Thunder Pack. I am going to be able to remove the Kadeem here in the end. My opponent is still moving over these guys with a Raven's Wing to this objective, and I managed to tie it with my Crossbowman. So in the end I do score the objective, and points wise I am actually a little bit ahead. Mostly because my opponent did not chase the Obsidian Guard and catch them, I feel like. But then otherwise, yeah, it's a 12-8 on points and it's a 15-5 after we count up everything. Yeah, so that was an outcome that I think neither my opponent, neither me expected. But I was quite happy with it to take 15 points for the team. We did manage to win from England, I believe, but if I'm wrong, then please tell me in the comments. I had a really delightful game against a good and nice opponent, and I'm very willing to play again. Thank you for watching, and I will see you then next time.